He existed within the constraints of silence, not as a kingdom ruled by chaos, but as a testament to his unyielding resolve. In this domain of unspoken fortitude, he wore silence like a regal cloak. Here was not a man of war, but a silent sovereign who held his quietude as a sharper edge than any sword could ever be. Some betrayals echo louder in silence than in screams, and in the deep abyss of his own betrayal, a plan was quietly whispering its intent through the corridors of his mind. In life there exist two roads, the one that breaks a man and the one that hones him into something akin to a blade, sharp, precise, unyielding. The silence following betrayal is the proving ground where such a metamorphosis occurs. Can you see him there, holding his silence not as a weight but as a fatal weapon, waiting patiently to be unsheathed? This was not defeat, it was a calculation, a precursor to the storm he would unleash. Perception is a game played by the unwise. He knew this truth intimately. She perceived his quiet demeanor as a sign of concession, not recognizing it for what it truly was, a strategic retreat, the silence before the upheaval they would never see coming. Her mistake was not uncommon. After all, do not most mistake the invisibility of the predator for weakness just before the strike? The cold glow of deception lay like frost upon the field of their shared history, illuminating the divide between reality and illusion, casting long shadows over the family image they had meticulously crafted. In this light, his silence baffled those who stood by, watching with the curiosity reserved for a magician's final trick. But the darkness he commanded was profound, a place where plans took shape away from prying eyes, unknown and unsuspected. In the stories told through whispers and half-truths, an archetype emerges, the silent king betrayed by those he should have been able to trust. And like the characters of myth, he too must navigate the chasm between perceived weakness and hidden strength. The echo of betrayal does not merely announce an end, it is a birth cry of something new. Why, you might ask, does this man adhere to his silence? Consider it a question of patience. His silence is his strongest ally, a cloak woven from the fabric of tactical genius and psychological insight. The manipulation of silence becomes his craft, orchestrating a dance in which he holds the power to choose the music to lead and eventually to stop. Her misjudgment was costly. She saw only what she wished to believe. Quiet was never cowardice. In the halls of those who wait, silence is not only power but promise. The promise of a reckoning that can come quietly as a falling leaf or as a thunderous storm. Some kings do not roar. They wait strategically, assembling the pieces of their power until the moment is ripe and all can be rewritten, undone, or erased. The duality of silence and sound, light and shadow, is the fertile ground on which this drama of humanity plays out. The silent king understands the paradox that within every betrayal lies its own destruction. The stark coldness of his silence is not a surrender, but a battlefield strategy where each unsaid word is a move calculated and precise, designed not to merely answer betrayal, but to transcend it, shape it into something that is entirely his. The repressed spirit walks tirelessly among shadows, calculating its moment to re-emerge to write its narrative anew. Perhaps she thought the silence was surrender. It is a common misconception. Yet in truth, it was his strategy, a deliberate choice that empowered him to control when and how the scales of justice would tip. In the heart of his silence dwells the answer yet unspoken, waiting for the world to catch on to the truth it holds breathlessly within its grasp. In the quiet chill where words dare not trespass, the battle rages within unseen yet real, a strategic ballet of emotions and ambitions where his victory lies not in the shout but the silence. You might ponder the deeper meaning of waiting in silence, why such a man who holds the universe of his pain would not hasten to cry it out. Perhaps it's the wisdom of time that informs him. In waiting in quietude lies the mastery of vision, the ability to see what others do, not to hear what is unsaid, and to promise that the unveiling of truth will be absolute. Do not mistake the calm for peace. When the time comes, his silence will suffocate the facade silently, dismantling the constructed image piece by deceptive piece. This is where he bides his time, where every silent hour adds weight to the coming storm. In his silence, he prepares for the revelation that will part illusions, revealing the stark outline of a truth long hidden, and the night before the storm shall know the calm before his revenge. In the cloaked recesses of Emily Turner's past lies the genesis of an empire built stone by stone, the story of which remains a labyrinth of achievements and engineered secrecy. Her husband's remarkable invention, a technological marvel that altered the course of modern living, is the silent architect behind her formidable wealth. Within this fortune lies an undeniable testament to ingenuity and the power to sculpt destinies. The initial investment of $25 million, a sum that could inspire wide eyes and ambitious dreams, was merely the starting point. Through strategic investments and guided wisdom, this foundation blossomed into an expansive emporium of wealth. Emily herself is a testament to the art of discretion, an emblem of a cautious guardian encased in the dual role of widow and watchful steward of the fruits her marriage bestowed. Her journey introduces the psychological complexity entwined with maintaining secrecy and cultivating wealth. Every transaction, investment, and decision was a meticulous move in a chess game where true mastery lay not in grand gestures, but in moments of silent calculation and intuition honed by years of restraint. As the narrative unfolds, Emily's cautious nature, shaped by necessity, reveals itself to be a double-edged sword. The very cloak she employs to safeguard her fortune also becomes a veil over her true substantive self. Her journey touches upon the fascinating dichotomy between visible affluence and the invisible threads of responsibility and solitude that bind such existence. Decades passed as she cultivated an image of normalcy, while her wealth surged quietly beneath the surface, like an undercurrent that moves deliberately without recognition. The pressures of secrecy are a familiar refrain to Emily. They play a tune of vigilance and quiet resilience, creating a veneer through which she engages with the world. From the outside, her life may appear as a placid lake, but beneath the surface lies a perpetual motion of awareness, a vigilance against the tide of curiosity that prosperity invites. For Emily, the stakes of exposure are not merely personal, but embody a broader narrative of protecting those she loves from the tribulations of affluence, a burden as unyielding as the fortune itself. In her quietude, there emerges a paradigm that challenges the typical allure attached to wealth. Does the accumulation of riches secure a peace unassailable by human folly and frailty, or is the preservation of wealth a relentless pursuit demanding undivided commitment? Emily offers a window into these musings, each moment of reticence, holding a silent resolve nurtured by experience. The psychological armor she dons serves as both protector and prison, a sobering reality for those whose lives are defined by monetary abundance. Such narratives of wealth inevitably intertwine, with family introducing vulnerabilities and potentialities unexplored by mere rhetoric. Thus, Emily finds herself ensnared in dynamics both familial and strategic, where the revelation of her role as a mysterious benefactor at a family wedding threatens to disrupt the carefully curated balance of her clandestine riches and public persona. Her son Dylan battles with understanding this duality, grappling with emerging truths that challenge the fabric of their familial ties. Here, the psychology of wealth unfolds in its most human form, where familial love collides with the disillusionment of discovery, each revelation a tremor that resounds deeper than material loss. It is this very human conflict that lurks at the heart of Emily's journey and the broader discourse on wealth's ironic capacity to constrict even as it liberates. As the mantle of secrecy weighs heavily on Emily, her resolve only deepens, mirroring the relentless nature of time's march. The blueprint she follows is crafted not of impulsive indulgence but of time-tempered wisdom, a testament to the quiet power of observing not just the passage of time, but the space it allows for cultivating foresight and determination. Her life's work accents a grand symphony, illustrating that true strength lies in moments of decisive silence, in choosing when to unveil the power woven into the tapestry of a life built on legacy. Thus, Emily's tale returns to the present, poised on the precipice of exposing complexities born of wealth and the enduring patience that has been her unseen ally. Each calculated investment and guarded secret feeds into the same unending cycle, a symbolic weaving of power transcending mere currency, informed by lessons born not just from inheritance but endurance, relationships, and ultimately a remarkable resilience carved through silence. In the echoes of Emily Turner's saga, one can observe a portrait not only of a woman entrenched in the undercurrents of wealth's invisibility, but one who stands at the juncture of legacy and identity, a monument to strategic waiting. Her story, interlaced with caution and insight, challenges the perceptions of wealth not as an end, but as an evolving premise that informs the essence of existence itself. The revelation at the wedding had sent ripples through the family, particularly unsettling Dylan, who had always believed he understood the nuances of his family's financial state. Yet here he was confronted with the fact that his mother Emily was not only wealthy but intricately connected to an entirely different financial domain. This existence of duality, holding both what he knew and what he didn't, became an untenable storm in Dylan's young mind, stirring a tempest of emotions and questions. Emily, seasoned as she was in the art of concealment and patience, found herself at a crossroads. Her meticulously constructed facade was now vulnerable to the probing eyes of her own kin. The duality that she had managed so expertly was slipping. The layers of her life peeled away to reveal the truth not just about wealth but about the choices she made in curating this secrecy. Each choice a calculated piece in the larger game of chess that was her life now seemed to unravel with every question that Dylan posed. When Dylan looked directly into Emily's eyes, no longer the innocent gaze of a child cushioned from the world's brutal truths, but a piercing look, seeking nothing short of honesty, Emily understood the gravity of the situation. It was one thing to sustain a financial empire in shadows, but quite another to maintain its veil before those who shared her blood. Yet as Dylan's questions kept coming, Emily remained steadfast, relying on the crafted narrative she had rehearsed over the years. A narrative spun of necessity, protection, and perhaps she admitted to herself in a particularly reflective moment, a touch of control that now demanded justification beyond mere ends. In this emotionally charged environment, Emily had to explain without exposing too much, reveal without unraveling the careful stitches of her tattled narrative. She could sense Dylan's frustration mingling with an aching curiosity, a drive to reconcile the image of his mother with this new reality. It wasn't entirely about the money, it never really was. It was about trust and truth, the very air required to nourish familial bonds. Yet Emily, an architect of silence, knew these bonds had to be balanced with the architecture of discretion. As days passed, a quiet tension settled in their home. Emily could feel it in every shared meal, in every room they passed through together. It clung to the walls, hung in the spaces between sentences. She could see Dylan grappling with this new paradigm. Would he pursue the seeds of doubt that had been sown, or would he let the matter rest? It was a dynamic as ancient as time itself, the dilemma between confrontation and peace. Not only were these family dynamics gendered in complexity, but they also intertwined with the broader notions of identity and legacy. Dylan wasn't just struggling with the revelation of wealth, he was contending with what it said about his own life story. In the narrative of his existence, how much was authored by his own hand, and how much by the invisible influence, the quiet power held by his mother, and inside these musings lay Dylan's deeper fear, which reflection was truly his. Emily, wise to the psychological turmoil enveloping her son, saw two paths unfold before her. She could reinforce the safety of ignorance, cloaking Dylan further in curated truths, or for once she could let him step into the light to understand the weight of decisions made by family ties long before him. This was not merely about revealing or concealing wealth, it was about shaping the mind of the man her son would become. In this dark hour of confusion, Emily turned the question on herself. Had she been fair in forging such a fortress of secrecy, and at what cost to her son's understanding of self? Could she distinguish between shrouding him for his protection and sheltering him for her own necessity? The reconciliation of these threads became her new focus, a delicate pattern to be woven in her son's emerging understanding of family and self. Even as Emily wrestled with these dilemmas, a new anxiety unfurled in the story. Jessica, emboldened by her newfound knowledge, had begun her own inquiry. The implications of her involvement layered complexity upon the simmering pot that was their family narrative. Yet Emily remained cautious, calculating. She would not let this escalate into a full-blown family scandal without a strategy. Her patience had always been her strongest ally, and in this looming confrontation, she hoped it would serve her once again. The personal becomes the strategic, and emotional currents run deep in these waters where family ties and wealth collide. Each revelation became a mirror reflecting not just power and its trappings, but the enduring strength of personal will. Even in love's vulnerability, Emily recognized the resolute truth: this was not an endpoint but another beginning. So as Dylan's questions lingered and Jessica's pursuits intensified, Emily knew that the true test lay ahead, a test of her resolve, her family's unity, and the shifting sands of identity and fortune. The complexity of her world unfurled a testament to the intricate dance of relationships that in balance created both harmony and dissonance. Jessica's inquiry unfurled with a quiet intensity, a strategic maneuver that belied her public demeanor of familial harmony. An analog clockwork ticking in the background of Emily and her family's life now shifted to the fore with Jessica's newfound awareness. It was an awareness of a hidden financial power that had laid dormant in the shadows obscured by the commonplace guise of suburban routine. Jessica, ever. The analytic observer understood that beneath every seemingly stagnant surface lay a current of unspoken truths, and here lay her family's Pandora's box. Her motivations were brewed from a mixture of curiosity, personal ambition, and the undeniable allure of influence. She was determined to decode Emily's labyrinthine financial affairs, viewing each revelation as another piece to the multifaceted puzzle of Emily's elaborate facade. From the outside, it appeared as a quest for truth, yet on closer inspection, it resembled a strategic land grab in the war for familial dominance. Jessica's studies in psychology had prepared her well, almost too well, for deciphering motives and intentions, but the real-world application of these lessons took on an entirely new dimension when applied to the intricate dance of family dynamics wrapped in financial enigma. Jessica's approach was methodical, rooted in the clinical detachment of a researcher studying a particularly complex case subject, and Emily, she found, was a more elusive subject than anticipated. Undaunted, Jessica moved forward, delving deeper into financial records, leveraging both digital prowess and age-old skill of perceptive inquiry. Her father, a lodestar in navigating the murky waters of wealth and influence, unknowingly became her muse. As Jessica pieced together the fragments from past familial interactions, she discovered subdued whispers of Emily's previous investments and corporate dealings. Every clue, no matter how minute, was a potential lever of power, a chance to pivot the axis of control within the family. Yet the question loomed: to what end? Was it mere curiosity that fueled her, or the promise of shared dominion over family assets? For Jessica, this inquiry exposed not just her aunt's financial prowess, but her own latent yearnings for influence and reverence born out of understanding. She recognized the stakes at hand were not merely financial but existential. Unraveling Emily's secrets, she believed, would provide the blueprint for mastering her own ambitions. This investigation knitted a new thread of tension into the family fabric, imperceptibly tautening each relation interconnected by silent pact or spoken oath. Every interaction became fraught with unspoken suspicion, an exercise in psychological jousting where words held deceptive double edges. Could she endure the subtle war she had initiated? Emily, ever the strategist, remained vigilant, recognizing the ripples in family dynamics induced by Jessica's quiet stratagem. She approached this development with the patient exactitude of a chess grandmaster predicting moves several steps ahead. Her aim was to safeguard her carefully constructed world, which through years of careful manipulation had shielded not just herself, but her nuclear family, from the opportunistic eyes of extended kin. The complexity of Jessica's motives was not lost on Emily, who began to weigh each potential outcome, each branching path that Jessica's inquiries might create. Scandals have their way of roaring into existence, though through careful maneuvering, they can be stifled, redirected into lesser avenues of public interest. She understood the resources at her disposal, the reach of her financial influence, the esteem ingrained in her stature, and the loyalty she elicited from those within her immediate sphere. These were the tools she wielded with precision, prepared to counter Jessica's newfound boldness. As Emily schemed, she respected the strengths of her opponent. Jessica was a force to be reckoned with, a practitioner of observational prowess combined with psychological acumen. The challenge lay in addressing her niece's inquiry without descending into an internecine struggle that could fracture the tenuous camaraderie of the family scaffold. Yet the war for influence was hardly contained at the family table. It seeped into conversations with lawyers, financial advisors, those who whispered sagely in private offices, each consultation a reconnaissance in a broader conflict over autonomy and control. Emily's strategic acumen lay not in counteracting but in redirection and resolution. Her patience was unfailing, her choices exemplifying the refined imbalance between power and restraint. Jessica's inquiry would not be the final drama in this unfolding script, yet it fundamentally shifted the narrative. The family once centered around cordial interactions and surface-level bonds now danced uncertainly on the precipice of revelation and rebellion. It was a lesson in caution and courage, a visceral reminder that within the quiet investigation of truth lay the seeds of profound change. Ultimately, the outcome would hinge on understanding not just the parameters of wealth, but the deeper truths of identity and inheritance, each player standing on the ever-shifting sands of personal fortune. The family gathered in the opulent dining room, its grandeur underscoring the tension that crackled in the air. Emily, composed and unyielding, sat at the head of the table opposite Jessica, whose sharpness of wit was as notable as her ambition. Between them sat Dylan, a man caught in the chaotic whirlpool of familial strife, his eyes flicking between his mother and wife, hoping for a conciliatory note that seemed elusive. Jessica's proposal was delivered with precision, her words calculated to pave a path toward control, veiled in the guise of collective benefit. "We should consider a family financial structure," she suggested, her tone smooth, yet beneath lay the steel of her ambition. Her reasoning was painted with the color of unity, yet the brushstrokes revealed a pursuit for dominance. Emily, with her years of experience navigating the human psyche, recognized the underlying currents. Her answer, crafted with the wisdom of restraint, was neither an outright dismissal nor a consent textured with acquiescence. "Before we restructure, transparency is paramount," she remarked, her voice a serene force, one that swept through the room with formidable grace. The dialogue between them was a dance of intellect and strategy. Emily revealed almost nonchalantly her awareness of Jessica's investigative endeavors. "I've come to understand there's been a surge of interest in our finances," Emily disclosed, her gaze steady and unflinching. Jessica's composure faltered momentarily. The revelation was unexpected, and the ground beneath her ambition felt precarious. Her investigative efforts, cloaked in secrecy, were a calculated risk, intended to navigate the labyrinth of Emily's assets and consolidate her position. For Dylan, the confrontation was a mirror reflecting the fragility of their family dynamics. He observed the exchange with a growing understanding of the intricacies involved. The clash of titans before him underscored the conflicting interests that could shatter familial connections or forge them anew. As the conversation spiraled into the core of the issue, the room became a crucible where intense emotions and logical determinations melted into a singular point of contention: control. Jessica's desire was clear. The financial structure she proposed was a vehicle for influence veiled under the guise of collective fortune. Emily, however, held no illusions about the nature of power. Her wealth was the product of strategic acumen, the result of calculated risks and years of perseverance. However, the oppressive weight of secrecy no longer served her purpose. Her revelation about Jessica's inquiries was a calculated gambit, a prelude to navigating the murky waters of familial allegiance and potential betrayal. The meeting was a tableau of the family's fractured dynamics, an allegory of alliance and opposition. Each word exchanged was fraught with the implications that resonated far beyond the walls of the dining room. Emily's strategy was not merely about wealth preservation, it was about redefining the inheritance of values and integrity. Jessica found herself at a crossroads, her ambition under the scrutiny of both her husband and her formidable aunt-in-law. The financial dreams she harbored now seemed contingent, tethered to a plan that required mutual alignment or produced devastating fractures. Dylan, grappling with the weight of his wife's ambition and his mother's unwavering principles, emerged as a pivotal figure. His role as mediator bore the potential to bridge the chasm or deepen it, a responsibility he felt with growing gravity. Ultimately, the outcome of the meeting was less a resolution and more a catalyst, setting the stage for the next chapter in their familial saga. Emily's declaration of Jessica's intrusions planted a seed for wider revelations and potentially reconciliation. By challenging Jessica openly, Emily had not just defended her autonomy, but had also illuminated the path forward. What lingered in the room as they concluded was a shared understanding that family entanglements were as complex as any strategic negotiations or legal maneuvers. The tensions laid bare were not just about wealth, but about roles and relationships re-evaluated under the glare of newfound transparency. As they dispersed, the echoes of their exchange reverberated, signaling a shift in the landscape of their family unity. The future was poised, a dynamic interplay between private desires and public facades, each member of the family compelled to re-evaluate their place within this intricate, evolving narrative. As the facade of familial harmony unraveled, the spotlight turned to Jessica. Her poised exterior, often perceived as calculated and serene, now revealed currents of desperation rooted in her family's financial predicaments. Her incessant probing into Emily's affairs was not merely curiosity, it was a lifeline for her own legacy. The web she spun was intricate, a calculated dance of strategy aimed at securing influence over the Turner fortune. To those unaware, it looked like ambition. Under the glare of probing eyes, it became a survival mechanism. Jessica's life was a tapestry of unraveling threads. Her family's financial empire, once formidable, was fraying at its edges, debts lurking in shadows threatening exposure. The stability of her marriage to Dylan lay precariously on the illusion of abundance, an illusion she worked tirelessly to maintain. The pressure to uphold appearances weighed heavily, driving her to explore every possible avenue to fortify her position. For Jessica, the stakes were unequivocally high. A misstep could cascade into a collapse not just for her, but for the family she had integrated into. With a sharp mind honed by necessity, Jessica meticulously plotted her course. Setting up trusts, maneuvering into asset-rich alliances, these were not just business transactions but calculated steps in a grander scheme. Each move was a chapter in the unfolding story of survival, one that drew ever tighter around the nexus of wealth controlled by Emily. Her actions, though bordering on manipulation, were rooted in a desperate calculus that weighed risk against potential gain, devoid of emotional entanglement or ethical quandary. The revelations about her family's financial fragility added urgency to her maneuvers. Asset mismanagement had left their inherited fortunes teetering. The veneer of prosperity belied a landscape riddled with financial landmines, bank loans, barely serviced creditors circling with relentless persistence. For Jessica, understanding Emily's financial prowess was not just academic, it was critical intel for realigning her family's position within the societal hierarchy. The more she delved, the more evident it became that if she were to salvage her family's honor, leveraging Emily's success was imperative. But this was a house of cards constructed quickly, ordered meticulously, reliant on maintaining perfect balance. One tremor, one misjudged alliance, and the collapse would be both swift and public. As Jessica's motives came to light, Emily found herself at a crossroads. No longer merely a reactionary figure, she was propelled into an assertive role. The shadow of Jessica's encroachments exposed greater truths about ambition and the moral cost of wealth, lessons learned painfully over years of living within the protective walls of accrued fortune. Her financial acumen, once simply a tool for security, transformed into a weapon for reclaiming sovereignty over her life's narrative. Emily's strategic acumen was formidable, revealing an incisive mind ready to engage in the nuanced play of legal and financial oversight. To counter Jessica's advances, she began documenting her wealth previously cloaked in intentional mystery, preparing meticulous ledgers that shielded her from baseless accusations. This was a battle where the prize was not mere victory but autonomy, the ability to control the contours of her reality without manipulation or betrayal. Jessica's rising vulnerability forced a reckoning within the family. Dylan, caught in the maelstrom of shifting alliances and fractured truth, ached with the weight of blurred loyalties torn between the wife he promised to cherish and the mother steadfast in her integrity. The unraveling of Jessica's motives was not a solitary unveiling but a convergence of familial wounds, reopening scars thought healed, testing the bonds of kinship with merciless precision. Analyzing Jessica's motivations uncovered uncomfortable truths about the nature of survival and deception. Her actions, while draped in calculated control, were rooted in deep-seated fear and a relentless drive to protect what she perceived as hers. In her mind, control and manipulation were parallel pathways to the same destination: stability and recognition within a precarious world. The unfolding saga set the stage for the ultimate confrontation. As the dynamics within the family shifted, Emily and Jessica stood poised on opposing sides, each armed with knowledge and intent, each determined to direct the narrative that had so critically exposed their vulnerabilities. The stakes loomed immense, the potential collapse not merely financial but existential. In this crucible, the family stood at the precipice, evaluating the true cost of wealth and the roles they were destined to play. Emily Turner found herself in a reflective silence, a calm before the storm of impending revelations. Her entire life, built upon discretion, now demanded such scrutiny that her every financial maneuver had to be laid bare. The scrutiny was wrought, unwelcoming yet inevitable, as she prepared to counteract the emotional and legal upheaval Jessica had ignited. To simply remain passive was no longer viable. The stakes had been irrevocably altered. Thus, Emily turned to the arsenal she had diligently curated: her wealth, her influence, and most critically, her strategic acumen. The process of documenting her extensive financial portfolio was meticulous, each investment and asset exposed not as mere numbers on a page, but as symbols of her strategic foresight. It became clear that this was not merely about wealth protection; it was an affirmation of identity and a reclamation of narrative. By willingly demystifying the complexity of her financial empire, Emily composed a declaration of self that was impossible for Jessica to dismantle without consequence. However, it required more than just a detailed ledger. It demanded that Emily harness her influence with a precise and ethical intent, a stark contrast to the perceived machinations of Jessica. Amidst the whispers of old money and new money legacies, Emily's approach was a testament to calculated empowerment. The exposure served as a tactic to beat Jessica at her own game, flipping the power dynamic that Jessica thought she controlled. This strategy was not heady revenge, but a cool, calculated response. Emily, once reticent about the full extent of her financial prowess, now knew that transparency would be her shield and sword. She steadied the scales not only in the court of public opinion but also in her family's fractured theater. For Dylan, standing amidst this familial turmoil, his mother's empowerment in the face of adversity served as an anchor. The very transparency he once doubted turned into a beacon of clarity. No longer shrouded in uncertainty, Dylan began to see his mother not solely as the matriarch of wealth, but as a guardian of integrity in the face of obscenity. The revelation that had initially seemed like a rupture in his understanding became a foundation upon which reconciliation was possible. Jessica, on the other hand, found herself navigating a tempest of her own creation. Where she once believed manipulation would guide her to stability, she now encountered an unyielding reality, a mirror reflecting her own vulnerabilities. Emily's deliberate exposure of wealth and influence served not only as a countermeasure, but a masterclass in measured resilience. To meet legal maneuvers with strategic transparency shifted the narrative from one of secrecy to an undeniable ownership of power and consequence. It was a public revelation that denied Jessica the satisfaction of unfolding Emily's story on her terms. In this strategic choreography, Emily controlled her destiny. Each documented asset became armor, each strategic investment a testament to capability devoid of subterfuge. This pivot from defense to assertion was not simply tactical; in essence, it was transformative, for it allowed Emily to reclaim the narrative, to not just react but to define the terms of engagement. Her impressive financial portfolio, laid bare for scrutiny, wielded more than influence; it wielded the truth. As the family reeled from these new dynamics, Emily's assertive stance encouraged them to consider more than monetary wealth. She illuminated a path forward based on integrity and transparency, advising against the corrosiveness of hidden agendas and the precarity of deceit. Here, Emily's actions demonstrated the potency of legal and ethical defense over emotional revenge, a nuanced, albeit challenging revelation for a family entrenched in fabled narratives of power and wealth. This recalibration unfolded as a crescendo of strategic disclosure, with Emily at its helm, proving to herself and her family that in the delicate dance of power and exposure, truth wielded with precision could be the most unassailable weapon. The fallout from Jessica's legal actions was not merely a trivial affair of hidden nuances; it was an explosive game of chess that threatened to expose Emily's carefully orchestrated life to public scrutiny. This clash between pride and practicality found its stage in the courtroom and the realm of regulatory evaluation, presenting challenges as varying as the individuals involved. While Jessica wielded the law like a vindictive weapon, Emily stood stalwart and prepared in a fortress built on legality and transparency. However, no shield, however robust, was impervious to the emotional shrapnel of betrayal. As the orchestrator behind the drama, Emily had to navigate the blistering legal ramifications, which loomed like storm clouds eager to burst over the horizon. It was clear that the arid plains of her previously arid but stable life were about to be paved with torrents of media speculation and family trepidation. The threat of regulatory scrutiny was palpable, whispering threats of invasion and exposure into the silence previously safeguarded by privilege. For Dylan, the emotional crush of his wife's duplicity gnawed at the roots of his familial bonds. Emily's son found himself caught in a maelstrom of unprecedented emotions balancing on the precarious edge between outrage and heartbreak. Unlike Emily's steely resolve, his was an internal battle, a war waged between head and heart as he contended with the profound sense of betrayal that now defined his marriage. Emily, too, found herself navigating this emotional minefield, though her perspective bore the clarity and experience of someone who once faltered, only to rise again. Her maternal instincts kicked in, longing to shield her son from the collateral damage of a matrimonial facade crumbling beneath its own weight. Yet she understood that this legal debacle posed its own risks, threats to her reputation and legacy in their community, regardless of what legal defense she might muster. Amid grinding legal gears, Emily's calculated decisions served as both shield and sword. She understood that any misstep could unravel the meticulously woven fabric of her life. Hence, the crucial task before her was ensuring her story remained one of resilience rather than ruin, keeping her reputation untarnished while safeguarding the legacy that she and her late husband had painstakingly built. Her actions were decisive but measured, deploying legal maneuvers with the finesse of a seasoned tactician. The mounting tension rippled through familial veins, like a disease that threatened to erode the very bond that once held them together. Emily adopted strategies that were as emotionally intelligent as they were legally sound. Concessions, ultimatums, and negotiations became her tools of choice, deciding when to push, when to hold, and when to offer an olive branch laden with terms she meticulously crafted. Witnessing the erosion of his marriage amidst these turbulent circumstances pushed Dylan closer to his breaking point. There, in the trenches of his private battle, choice and consequence intertwined, urging him to see past the shattered illusion of marital bliss and towards something more genuine. The weight of self-discovery pressed heavily upon him, and Emily, seeing this struggle reflected in his eyes, knew she must give him the courage to emerge from despair's grip. This turmoil unraveled on a public stage, yet amidst the clamor an inevitable lesson emerged, a potent reminder that love, trust, and truth were the only true currencies. And as Dylan excavated the depths of his heart's authenticity, his bond with Emily began to reforge itself in the kiln of adversity, growing stronger for having been tested under fire. Within the crucible of conflict, Emily's steadfast presence laid the ground for their rediscovery. She reminded herself and Dylan that through the din of deceit and greed, truth could still carve a path forward. It was not merely about leveraging wealth or overcoming trials, but about emerging from the shadows with integrity unscathed, a profound legacy not earned through fortune, but through the relentless pursuit of a life lived earnestly. As the dust began to settle, Emily found herself not merely with a family whose bonds had survived the storm, but with a newfound appreciation for the truth's redemptive power. In the end, there was peace, an understanding that unfolded quietly in the aftermath, a testament to the intricate dance between power and vulnerability. Here echoed the quiet perseverance of a woman galvanized by her trials, ever determined to convert every challenge into an opportunity for growth forever, swayed by the whisper of promises kept and futures claimed through unwavering hope and resolve. The ultimatum had been set, and with its proposition came a hush, a breathless pause that hovered in the air like a weight yet to be dropped. Emily, with a calm yet unyielding demeanor, extended the offer to Jessica, a strategic move that echoed both her resolve to preserve family cohesion and her shrewd understanding of the intricate dance of power and vulnerability. Here was a moment thick with the charged energy of anticipation, Emily poised on the precipice of decisive action. The language of finance intertwined with familial bonds, each syllable fraught with consequences that touched the very core of personal allegiance and trust. The scene unfurled against a backdrop of legalistic bravado where documents bore the weight of destinies altered. Here lay Emily's choice, not out of vindictiveness but from an astute acknowledgement that sometimes one must craft a path forward by leveraging strength wisely. It wasn't merely a bargain of dollars and cents, but a negotiation where the stakes were privacy, reputation, and the essence of familial love. Yet in the midst of these negotiations, an unspoken understanding emerged, a tacit acknowledgement that perhaps the real challenge lay not in the legal artillery, but in the human heart's capacity for forgiveness and change. As the dialogue unfolded, the room itself seemed a character in this drama, with walls that bore witness to unspoken doubts and unexpressed hopes. For Jessica, the ultimatum posed not just a financial consideration, but a challenge to examine her own motives. To pursue her legal crusade was to gamble with more than monetary gain. It asked her to measure the cost of fractured trust against the precarious allure of control and vindication. And while the tangible settlement was tempting, the undercurrent of loss, it represented loss of integrity, of unity, proved an equally potent force. In this strained tableau, Emily's eyes held a fire forged through trials that transcended generations, urging Jessica to see beyond the smoke and mirrors of immediate gains. Emily knew that her wealth was a byproduct of her husband's genius, yet its true value lay in how it could be used to mend rather than divide, to foster healing rather than harbor hurt. In offering Jessica an escape from this escalating conflict, Emily was extending a hand not just in negotiation, but in a gesture of hope for reconciliation and growth. What transpired next was both a test of authenticity and a reckoning of desires. Jessica, standing at a crossroads, confronted the complex weave of her motivations. Could she step back from the brink, disentangle herself from the tangled web of litigation, and embrace a future that offered peace rather than contention? The choice was hers, to make a personal odyssey that required examining the very architecture of her values and aspirations. Through it all, Dylan watched the interplay with a growing clarity. Realization dawned upon him like a sunrise through a shroud of fog, illuminating the path he must now traverse. Watching the interplay of negotiations, he recognized in his mother's resolve the embodiment of strength not rooted in wealth, but in wisdom born of adversity. This exchange was not merely about legal maneuvers. It was about the architecture of a life rebuilt on the foundational virtues of honesty and compassion. As the seeds of a potential agreement took root, the negotiations became more than just a legal proceeding. They were a paradigm shift, a transformative experience that offered redemption where only rivalry had existed before. Through the prism of conflict and reconciliation, Emily offered not just a resolution but the first steps toward healing, reaffirming her commitment to a family ethos that valued love over litigation, unity over division. In these moments, as all parties found themselves recalibrating their perceptions, the true power in Emily's hands was evident. It was the power to craft a narrative that could transcend the limitations imposed by greed and discord. The resolution of this chapter, born from negotiation, offered a profound lesson to all involved, that real wealth was found not in bank accounts, but in the strength of character, and that sometimes the greatest victory lay in choosing the path of understanding over confrontation. The chapter closed with quiet introspection, yet it was far from an ending. It marked a renewal, a chance to rewrite the future not just of Emily's family but potentially of Jessica's as well. And as Jessica pondered the offer before her, she was given the most valuable treasure of all, the opportunity to reimagine her story with integrity and dignity intact, heralding a new dawn of potential and promise. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, the air felt charged with a kind of tension that lingered like dust motes in the soft glow of evening light. Dylan stood at the precipice of realization, each memory of his marriage to Jessica unraveling into stark clarity. It was as if he had been walking through life in a dream, only to awaken abruptly to the cold bite of reality. Were his vows merely whispered into a void of deception? Was their shared journey a tapestry woven of intimate moments and shared dreams, nothing more than illusory threads tangled in deceit? The realization struck him like a bell tolling in the distance, signaling an end that was inevitable, yet profoundly sorrowful. For so long, Dylan had clung to the hope that there was authenticity in their bond, that love could surpass the shadows cast by the tensions surrounding their families. But now, every nuance, every whispered plan and conspiring glance was reframed in the dark sheen of Jessica's manipulative undertones. Her motivations had always been skewed towards a form of emotional extortion veiled behind the facade of marital bliss. As Dylan embarked on the journey through acceptance, the precipice transformed into a path. Acceptance, however, is rarely a gentle embrace. It is an arduous process, often jagged and raw, marked by denial, anger, and sorrow so dense it drags the heart into its depths. Yet with each step forward came a bittersweet clarity. His insistence on cherishing the fragments of good in their relationship was not weakness, it was testament to a heart resilient enough to hope despite the fractures. There is a peculiar kind of power born from the ruins of betrayal. As Dylan navigated his new reality, the dynamics at the core of his relationship unfolded, revealing the bitter embers of Jessica's calculations. He analyzed each past interaction with an analytical detachment, not to rekindle resentment, but to forge an understanding to reclaim ownership of his narrative. The acknowledgement that their partnership had been skewed by ulterior motives did not diminish the love he had given freely. Rather, it reaffirmed the sanctity of that love untainted by greed. In this meditative space, Dylan found himself contemplating the paradox of intimacy, how it can serve both as a sanctuary and a battleground. Love exists not in isolation but in the delicate interplay of shared vulnerability and trust. Jessica, unable to reconcile her ambitions with the sincerity of their union, had chosen strategies that aligned more with conquest than companionship. With this contemplative revelation, Dylan was able to separate his self-worth from the outcomes of their relationship. His decision to end the marriage, though tinged with a sorrow familiar yet heavy, was a moment of profound liberation. It was an assertion of his capacity to relinquish what no longer served the integrity of who he was or aspired to be. In breaking away from the bonds of a troubled marriage, Dylan was not just seeking an end but a renewal, a kind of emotional renaissance that is forged in the fires of self-realization and reflection. As the formalities of divorce began to unfold, Dylan approached each deliberation with a newfound perspective. No longer ensnared by the need to preserve a union grounded in misdirection, he saw clearly the contours of the future stretching before him, a canvas not yet painted, teeming with potential and unmarred by the past. He visualized a life rich with genuine connection, unburdened by pretense, a life grounded in simplicity, authenticity, and a commitment to personal truth. The end of their marriage, while seemingly a closed chapter, also marked the beginning of Dylan's inward journey toward healing and understanding. The echoes of betrayal became quieter, no longer an overbearing presence, but rather a solemn reminder that reinforced his resolve to honor his principles. From the ashes of his relationship, Dylan embraced the profound lesson that resilience is not born solely from overcoming adversity, but in the ability to love despite the risk of loss. This newfound awareness extended beyond his personal sphere, influencing how he engaged with the world, seeking not validation but authenticity in every interaction. He carried forward the lessons learned, nurturing relationships that valued depth over superficial success. The wisdom gleaned from his painful experiences imparted a clarity that endowed him with a unique strength, enabling him to redefine what it meant to live with purpose. Dylan's journey through the crucible of emotional betrayal did not merely culminate in an ending but heralded a rebirth. It was a metamorphosis, transforming despair into hope and drawing from the depths of his spirit a renewed understanding of what it means to truly love and be loved. As he ventured into the unknown future, Dylan found solace not in certainty, but in the exploration of life's intricate tapestry, unfurling before him a narrative now his own, to write with integrity and freedom interwoven in every chapter, unfolding ahead. In the quiet calm that followed the stormy whirlwind of legal battles and personal upheaval, Dylan found himself anew in a life crafted not by the hands of fate, but of his own conscious choosing. With every breath, he embraced the idea that authenticity, far removed from the sway of material affluence, was his guiding light. The emotional residue left by a marriage laced with deception and desire for dominion had vanished, leaving fertile ground for seeds of genuine connection to take root. Dylan's path led him back to moments of simplicity, moments selectively chosen to add profound meaning to his life. These were not grand gestures, no extravagant displays or opulent ventures. They existed in the shared silences during long walks by the sea, or in laughter over a cup of coffee that tasted of warmth and belonging. In these spaces devoid of artifice, he found companionship that echoed his resolve to build relationships based on transparency and mutual respect. He soon met someone who, much like him, had a journey etched with scars reminding them of past betrayals. Their shared understanding of loss and rediscovery allowed them to form a bond as resilient as it was tender, a testament to the strength found in vulnerability. This new partner valued integrity over wealth, providing a mirror for Dylan to see his own growth reflected. Meanwhile, Emily traveled a parallel path of introspection and transformation. The tangled web of secrecy around her wealth, once a heavy cloak she bore, had been unwoven, allowing her to stand unencumbered in her truth. It was not the wealth itself that defined her, but how she chose to wield it. With each passing day, she redefined the narrative of her life, focusing on the tangible impact she could make on those around her. Reflecting on her past choices, Emily found herself invigorated with clarity and purpose. The immense responsibility of being the steward of a fortune built on her late husband's ingenuity was no longer a source of anxiety. Instead, it became a beacon of capabilities to champion causes she deeply cherished. Her mission developed into more than safeguarding her legacy. It extended into fostering positive change, nurturing projects that uplifted communities while empowering those within them. Her relationship with Dylan, once strained under the weight of secrets untold, blossomed into something tender and profound. Together they nurtured an understanding intertwined with the lessons from their shared and separate pasts. Dylan's newfound partnership and Emily's evolution into a beacon of benevolence became not only anchors for each other, but a testament to the transformative power of authentic relationships. As they embraced this next chapter, both Dylan and Emily found their lives enriched by quality over quantity moments, defined by genuine interaction and heartfelt connections. The allure of superficial success and societal definitions of wealth faded into insignificance, replaced by a deeper understanding of what it truly means to live well. Their stories are reminders that the journey of healing and rebuilding is not devoid of challenges, but is remarkably rewarding. Their transformations echoed the notion that a life of value is woven from fabric as unique as each individual thread upon it. Emily and Dylan embody a truth familiar to those who have traversed the crooked paths of adversity, that resilience and authenticity are carved from the willingness to confront one's vulnerabilities and embrace the underlying strength revealed therein. Through their actions and commitments, the two character architectures stand as narrators of what genuinely matters, igniting the flames of thoughtful reflection and meaningful interaction in the hearts of those they touch. So it is left to you, the observer of their journey, to reflect on the tapestry of your own life. What threads will you choose to weave into your story? What anchors will hold you steady in times of uncertain waters? Perhaps within Dylan and Emily's story you might find elements of reflection that speak your truth. In the pursuit of connection, let their journey inspire you to seek genuine relationships and to live with purpose, embracing authenticity over mere attainment. In the quiet heart of Santa Fe, a woman once known for her opulent lifestyle redefines the notions of identity and fulfillment. Emily, who had woven a web of secrecy around her modest beginnings, now faced the monumental task of unraveling the constraints wealth had silently shackled upon her life. Her husband's legacy, a monument of innovation and transformation, became not just a narrative of financial acumen, but a clarion call to personal growth and social responsibility. As Emily ventured into this evolving landscape, she embraced the vibrancy and simplicity of communal living. No longer sheltered by the gilded walls of detached privilege, she sowed the seeds of her husband's ethos into the community through the Thomas Fund, a beacon of hope for local projects and innovations that shared their spirit of ingenuity and compassion. This was her quiet revolution, transforming her understanding of true wealth not as a measure of monetary success but as a legacy of positive influence and meaningful connection. Santa Fe's allure had been its artful blend of natural beauty and cultural tapestry, a perfect haven for Emily's burgeoning identity. She found herself no longer bound by expectations thrust upon her by status, but rather liberated to savor life's most honest pleasures. A story painted not with the brush of opulence, but with earnest strokes of purpose and authenticity. It was in the rhythmic cadence of community life that she discovered a sense of belonging, stripped of pretense and liberated by genuine interactions. Emily leveraged this newfound freedom to foster relationships that were rooted in mutual respect and shared aspirations. Her guarded persona, once an impenetrable fortress, began to soften as she allowed others to witness her humanity. By engaging directly with those who benefited from her philanthropic endeavors, she cultivated a profound appreciation for the values her husband cherished, a legacy not built of material possession, but of enduring impact and heartfelt contribution. Through the lens of her metamorphosis, Emily began to cultivate a garden of self-awareness, tending to it with introspective honesty and resilience that had long been overshadowed by wealth's deceptive allure. She realized that the possessions she once clung to were mere shadows of fulfillment, a stark contrast to the joy and purpose she derived from nurturing a community that had welcomed her transformation with open arms. Yet in her journey she encountered the inevitable hurdles of change, family dynamics still fraught with reverberations from the past, revelations required careful navigation. Dylan, emboldened by his own experiences, looked to Emily not just as a mother, but as an embodiment of enduring strength and wisdom. Their relationship evolved from the remnants of secrecy into a garden of mutual respect and shared growth. Emily's investment in the community extended beyond financial contributions. She applied her strategic acumen to address systemic issues, advocating for initiatives that reflected her husband's innovative spirit. Each project was a step toward healing and empowerment, a testament to her unyielding resolve to craft a life that echoed her values rather than her debts. In this deliberate reevaluation of life's priorities, Emily forged an indelible narrative, interwoven with tales of courage and imagination. She became a steward of a legacy that celebrated ingenuity over inheritance, fostering a spirit of collaboration that resonated across Santa Fe. Her husband's legacy, once a beacon of financial prosperity, now illuminated a path of shared dreams and possibilities. The community responded to Emily's vision with a kaleidoscope of enthusiasm and creativity, energizing her mission with stories of their own. Inspired by this resurgence of shared purpose, Emily wove these narratives into the very fabric of the Thomas Fund, ensuring that it mirrored her commitment to impactful transformation. Through every challenge, Emily learned the profound lessons of vulnerability. Her experiences underscored the significance of authenticity, not as an idealistic pursuit, but as a cornerstone of fulfilling relationships and lasting influence. Her transformation was not merely a personal journey, but an invitation for those around her to explore their own narratives, seek genuine connections, and contribute uniquely to a richly woven community tapestry. In the end, Emily's story was one of quiet revolution, a poignant revelation of power redefined and potential unleashed. Her legacy, carved not from the stone of affluence but from the enduring grace of authenticity and generosity, became a testament to the transformative power of embracing one's true self. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the tranquil hills of Santa Fe, Emily found herself reflecting on the complex tapestry of her life. Her journey was punctuated by revelations both of wealth and wisdom that had reshaped her understanding of what truly mattered. The trappings of affluence, for so long a silent partner in her life, had gradually revealed their limitations. Emily's contemplation was not driven by regret, but rather by a deep desire to uncover where the lines between power and contentment truly lay. Through the corridors of time, wealth had been both a cloak of security and a catalyst for distance within her family. The revelation of her hidden fortune had brought with it a storm of emotional upheaval and soul-searching. It begged the question, in the maze of financial endeavors, where did genuine fulfillment reside? Emily knew that wealth alone could not buy the harmony and trust that lay at the heart of meaningful relationships. Her son's turbulent marriage to Jessica had been a stark illustration of how quickly money could twist intentions and obscure truths. The fascinating pull of wealth's power had its seductive allure, but it also masked deeper, often unattended voids. Emily recognized a profound irony, a paradox that so many overlooked. Power in itself held little value if not channeled towards enriching life's most precious intangible treasures: love, understanding, and shared growth. The facade of wealth was a delicate veil, often shielding its possessor from recognizing the beauty of vulnerability and authenticity. But Emily had embraced the vulnerability that had once terrified her, recognizing it not as a weakness, but as a rare and potent strength. The legal battles and family tensions had scarred but ultimately strengthened her perspective. Emily became acutely aware that the legacy one leaves is not tallied in financial statements, but in the lives touched and the love fostered. Her late husband's innovation, originally a beacon of financial prosperity, had transcended its purpose, becoming a symbol of shared dreams and community spirit, thanks to her stewardship of the Thomas Fund. As she immersed herself in community projects, Emily found an unexpected solace and joy in the simple acts of kindness and generosity. Her new life in Santa Fe was characterized not by grandiose gestures but by everyday interactions that vibrated with genuine human connection. The rough edges of material worry smoothed away. She witnessed the powerful artistry of unity, as individuals came alive with purpose and creativity under her programs. For Dylan, the severing of matrimonial ties with Jessica served as a painful yet necessary release. It was a chapter that freed him to pursue a life rooted in honesty and emotional richness. Watching her son rise from the ashes of their shared trials was a bittersweet validation for Emily. Her wealth had not been a curse as she once feared, but an opportunity for growth and rediscovery, a pivot point from which Dylan could explore the values that truly mattered to him. Emily's story, an intricate dance between affluence and authenticity, took on a new rhythm in the company of her Santa Fe community. With each interaction, she wove the golden thread of empathy into the fabric of her days, encouraging others to forge connections that transcended material wealth. The joy of communal harmony became her guiding star, steering her away from the isolation of a gilded cage into the embrace of collective fulfillment. In this tapestry of transformation and awakening, Emily found her footing firmly planted in the realm of human spirit and understanding. The limitations of financial power in achieving genuine happiness served as a poignant reminder of wealth's true essence. Her evocative journey echoed an invitation for others to re-examine their own narratives, to disentangle their self-worth from their net worth, and to embrace vulnerability as an asset rather than an affliction. The legacy she aspired to create was not etched in stone or reflected in opulent estates, but in the heartbeats of those she had inspired and empowered. Emily's world, vibrant and full of promise, was an enduring testament to the beauty found in living authentically. It was in these simple pleasures and community engagements that she discovered life's richest rewards. Emily's life in Santa Fe was blossoming its rhythm, now dictated by the colorful spectrum of community life rather than the monochrome of solitary luxury. Here in the serene embrace of the desert, her journey took a vital, grounded turn. The subtle shift from wealth-centered existence to one anchored in shared human experiences was palpable. She was no longer a figure cloaked in mystery, but a vibrant thread in the intricate tapestry of Santa Fe's communal fabric. Every morning, the warmth of the rising sun on adobe walls symbolized a new beginning, an opportunity to delve deeper into the simplicity she had grown to cherish. Emily's newfound life pivoted around sincerity and connection. No longer driven by the need to safeguard her fortune, she nurtured relationships steeped in authenticity. With each passing day, she delved deeper into the lives of those around her, an artist painting under her olive tree, a child studying in the flicker of a candlelight, a neighbor planting herbs in a wild, unruly garden. These were the beacons of her fresh outlook, the joys that transcended material benchmarks. Within this vibrant community landscape, Emily thrived. Her gestures of kindness, donating time to local causes, supporting community-driven arts, and being a steady listener to those seeking a mindful ear were not mere transactions of goodwill, but genuine connections forming in the sesame fields of her new world. The silence in Santa Fe was different. It was not oppressive but deeply meditative, filled with quiet undertones of lives genuinely lived. Underneath the surface of these transformations lay a profound realization here. People saw her as Emily, not as an investment mogul or a mysterious figure with hidden fortunes. The children greeted her with smiles, their parents readily embraced her into their circle, and the community welcomed her presence with an absence of preconceived judgment. This lack of speculative whispers eased her mind, allowing her to breathe freely and embrace a sincerity neglected in her previous life. Her wealth had become less an enigma and more a gentle tide, pushing her towards goodwill and authenticity rather than away from it. Emily's commitment manifested in her support of initiatives like the local food bank literacy programs and educational scholarships under her quietly influential Thomas Fund. She had shed the isolation wealth once wrought, openly embracing a humbler path, one replete with direct impact rather than abstract influence. In the evenings, as she watched the sun set behind the nearby mesas, she found solace not just in their magnificent hues of amber and rose, but in the quiet whisper that asked, "How else might you help?" Her heart resonated with each new possibility, finding reward without the burden of suspicion or misconstrued motives, evident in the rows of produce growing in community gardens or murals adorning previously bare walls. Emily's days were now framed by laughter in the local market, mindfulness in her yoga classes, and the fulfillment set in the simple, nurturing acts that went unnoticed to the indifferent city, yet celebrated here with pure, unfiltered joy. Santa Fe's spirited culture was a vibrant canvas on which she painted anew, her heart now bright with the colors of collective joy. As days turned into weeks and then months, she marveled at the profound transformation unfurling within herself. Her connection to the community evolved further with each person inspired or each story shared. Her world echoed with lives she touched, stories she heard, and dreams she fostered. Her growing realization of how little wealth mattered, vis-a-vis relationships, buoyed her personal growth and facilitated her staying true to her journey of empathetic living. Through this journey, Emily illustrated that wealth is but a tool, and its true value lies in leveraging it for meaningful engagement and empowerment. The delightful simplicity in giving without expecting returns provided her a tranquility scarce in her past but abundant now. She experienced the gratification of seeing young students using their newfound skills to uplift others. As her narrative wove intimately with the lives of those she met, Emily's existence became a testament to the profound universal wisdom that a fulfilled life lies not in opulence, but in harmony, something her old confines could never offer. Her heart was bound not by gilded chains but by the whispers of community, blessing her life each day richer than the wealth she once sheltered behind high walls. In Santa Fe's embrace, Emily found not just peace and purpose but the joyous echoes of her true legacy, a life so interwoven with others that its impact would resonate long past material triumphs. Her journey was not merely a discovery but an invitation to all, encouraging them to redefine what wealth meant and where happiness truly resided. This was Emily's gift, the rare joy of living authentically amid shared loves and sweet simplicities. Emily stood silently in the large empty room, a dim light filtering through the window, casting gentle shadows on the floor. This was the place where it all began, the confrontation, the unveiling of secrets, the shattering of illusions. And now, this room, once filled with echoes of turmoil, stood still, a silent witness to the triumph of resilience over chaos. The evidence of her opponent's defeat lay scattered about. Jessica's once indomitable voice had faded, replaced by the haunting loneliness of her own machinations. In the aftermath, it was not victory alone that defined Emily. Her journey through the storm had forged a transformation deeper than mere triumph could convey. She had found peace not in the cacophony of proclamations but in the subtle power of quietude. Silence had become her ally, a realm where whispers of truth held more sway than shouted admissions. She had traversed the landscape of revenge, only to find serenity waiting on the other side. For her son Dylan, it was a passage of rediscovery. Freed from the tangled web of deceit, he embarked on a path lit by authenticity, guided by values untarnished by superficial allurements. Emily's unwavering support enveloped him, crafting a bond built not from wealth's heavy chains, but from threads of understanding and shared dreams. Both their lives, once set adrift, now moved with the current of genuine connection. Yet it was Emily's rebirth that resonated most profoundly. In the vast expanse of life's potential, she found solace in meaningful engagement rather than avaricious pursuit. Santa Fe embraced her, no longer a destination of escape, but a haven of rebirth, where the echoes of her efforts reverberated in communities she uplifted. The Thomas Fund grew not from the seeds of monetary ambition, but from the soil of communal harmony. And you, if you find yourself at the crossroads of anger and forgiveness, what path would you tread? Could you wait long enough, stand in your silence unwavering as truth unraveled itself before those who betrayed you? Imagine the strength it takes to remain still, to allow time to carve truth into an unyielding present, as relentless as water smoothing stone. Picture the courage it requires to let silence be your response, to refrain from acting, knowing your stillness will speak volumes. In the end, some futures do not roar. They whisper expanses of serenity that stretch beyond the noise of conflict. They invite contemplation, urging introspection rather than resolution. For Emily, the silent room was not merely an end, but a symbol of her journey, an abandoned object filled with new purpose, a cracked facade now healed by understanding. Perhaps within that silent space one might find the secret to truly profound conclusions. Some endings do not beg closure. They hover in the air, pregnant with potential, allowing life to breathe through them unchanged but forever altered. A reality where doors once sealed tight are left ajar, inviting the world to see beyond the superficial. As Emily stood in that room, she saw not emptiness but possibility, not finality but perpetual beginnings. The journey, after all, was never about the destination. It was about redefining the continuum of life's narrative, seeing the profound within the mundane, and fostering connections that would outlive her name. In such silence, time stretches infinitely, and in that embrace, Emily found a legacy far greater than material conquest. Perhaps this, and not the accumulation of wealth, was her gift, the rare joy of living authentically amid shared loves and sweet simplicities, a life not merely lived but weaved into the lives of others. This was the true resonance, the echo that endures, the sacred whisper of an ending that promises infinity.